Hey there, students. Today we are going to be talking about qualitative interviews. All right, we're going to be discussing kind of the idea behind this and the goal of this, or the goal of interviewing people for qualitative data, is to get that deep richness of their information, like we were talking about in the last lecture, they have to share. We have not basically we are not concerned. Not we have not. We are not concerned about getting the same set of responses from all of our informants. Because realistically, in all likelihood, a study may only have a couple or a few dozen participants if relying on qualitative interviewing. So let's get to kind of talking about this so that you can get some more information to go forward. Allow me to make myself smaller on here so that I'm not blocking your view. I'll just be in the middle right here. Hello. Right. So let's keep going. Right. So as I was saying, in all likelihood, a study may not have more than a couple or a few dozen participants if we're relying strictly on qualitative research or qualitative interviewing. We aren't looking for generalizability like we do in quant or quantitative surveys that are based on probability samples. So for qualitative interviews, we want to ask questions, Socratic method, that will elicit longer responses that get to the heart of issues. Basically, audio, that so we can know what's going on, right? Audio recording the interviews are usually best for gathering accurate data that can be transcribed or coded later so that you don't have to stop them when you're taking notes. If we ask, how much do you agree or disagree with the following statement? I like sushi. Strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree. We can code this data numerically and infer how many people in our study population like or dislike sushi, right? That may be important to find out. Yet our goal is richer data than just saying I like sushi, right? To find out why a person does or doesn't like sushi, or to understand the nuances of this, we would need to dig in a little bit further and ask for their story behind this taste or distaste, right? We want to know more. Asking open-ended questions, Socratic method, keep asking open-ended questions, right? That don't just let the person fill in the blank, but rather expand upon their reasoning will get you richer data to code for themes. In most cases, it's best to clear of yes or no questions, right? Don't ask close-ended questions, you close-ended responses is one of the things you're taught. Even with an explain added to the end of it, you're still going to get a little bit, it's not going to give you the data you want, right? So you'll be asking questions, so it is better to ask more natural questions that elicit the in-depth responses. For example, if I said, right, do you like sushi? And they say, sure. Then I have to ask, could you explain more? Then they say, well, I like it and sometimes not so much, right? Then I have to say, when do you like it most? Then let's say they say, when it comes from a good place that I like, right? It's been like, it's not like bad tasting and it's like maybe expensive. I don't know. It depends. Well, then I'd say, well, what's a good place you like? Then they'd say, well," and you go on and on, right? Like you'd go back and forth, but you're asking those questions to dig deeper and deeper, right? We've set up the question that might pull the answers out. Instead, I could say, think about the last time you had sushi. What was your experience like? Then they may say, I haven't had sushi in a while until recently because the last several times before this, I get it and don't want to cook, or when I have been invited out with some friends somewhere near them, and the truth is, it wasn't very good, or seems to be that fresh and just a little fishy tasting, right? It seems like the places the fish came from were more focused on efficiency rather than quality. But the other night, I decided to try a new place that I have never been that was pretty interesting types of rolls. They even had black rice, right? It was really cool on their list. And I ended up ordering a Tootsie Roll and some other cool names tied to the location. Like, here in Scottsdale, they had the Cowboy Roll. I had never seen that before, but I loved that type of fish. Sauces, the presentation. So I was excited to give it another try. It was delicious. So what do you think was different this time? Come to think of it, the other times I've had sushi have been at places other people told me to meet them, or was not something I looked ahead of time for choice. And the sushi is probably not what I would have ordered, but what everyone would be okay with eating. And it was probably sitting out for a while, given the several sushi orders that happened at the location for the takeout all at once, right? This time was different because I got to order from where I want and what I wanted now that I think about it, right? So do you see what just happened, right? even in this hypothetical situation, you see what kind of happened. The whole other line of follow-up questions that we can probe into when it comes to choice and group consideration and what choices go into this person's eating patterns, right? This all came from a simple question about ordering food. This participant's answer may be totally different than another person's. For instance, they may say, "Oh my gosh, I love all sushi all the time. Just had it last night. I hate cooking and usually ordering takeout, such as sushi happens once a week in our home. I even get sushi sometimes at the grocery store so that I can have it even if my funds are low or too tired or actually to order and pick up something at an extra cost." So tell me, when you're too busy or don't want to cook, what else is going on? This all again takes so much practice. You have to listen and respond and keep up with the conversation going in rich ways. We don't want to cut the people off or try to get them to go in a different direction than their ideas. We would miss out on those important breakthroughs that can happen, that can go within the conversation. Usually we start qualitative, in-depth interviews with a semi-structured interview schedule that is essentially right? We follow the schedule. That is, we have the basic questions we will ask for the participant. Yet we know we will stray from them when we ask follow-up questions, right? And we may go out of order of the questions depending upon how the respondent takes us along the way, right? Takes us. They're taking us on the journey. We're just the one transcribing it, right? So it is important for the researcher to be familiar with the question and to mark off as they go which topics have already been answered along the way so you don't ask redundant questions, right? Play stupid games, get stupid prizes, ask dumb questions, get the answer you're not looking for, right? You want to make sure you're not trying to confuse the participant or show them that you may or may not have been listening, right? What if you make them feel like they're not being heard? They're going to close off right away. You don't want to do that, right? Remember, rapport is important so that participant feels comfortable opening up. Feeling as though they aren't being heard will not be fruitful for data collection. You will literally be shut down and you'll get closed answers, which will not help, right? Matching the person's in their language, dress, and clothing, and comfort and style, right? Making it a safe atmosphere all help to build trust as well. Focus groups are basically group interviews. You may have to ask a select number of people, small, maybe 5 to 10, to join your conversation about a topic. The researcher, again, will have a set of questions, of course you will, but will be able to moderate the conversations, hearing from everyone, not just ones who speak up the most. This can be beneficial if hearing from multiple people on and building off of their ideas is useful. You have to control the room. Don't just ask the person who has their hand up, right? Because if they have their hand up, what about the people who had their hand up and then someone answered and they don't feel like their answer is going to be that clever anymore? I see this all the time in my intro classes. You have to you have to win the room, but you have to manage the room. And you have to do so respectfully. And to get trust, you have to give trust. And to get sincerity, you have to be sincere. And if you want vulnerability, you might have to be a little vulnerable with them too, right? This is a big deal. So if you ask a room full of instructors to share experiences about, say, teaching research methods, they may all be able to discuss, share, and debate what they've tried, changed, what was worked in their class, what doesn't, and the like. Hearing multiple perspectives all at once can give the researcher rich data on the topic. The researcher must be skilled in moderating a group of people, allowing them to fully discuss, but also onto a new question when appropriate and not getting stuck. When I am teaching my introductory courses, like I mentioned, I have 400 plus students. Wow, 400 plus students in a room, students, wow, in a lecture hall. I have to moderate differently than I do my upper divisions, where I can see as low as 40 and upwards to 80 to 100 people, right? It's not 400. I try to encourage conversations in both, but if you don't manage or moderate properly in the former, meaning the large class, you will find yourself in a bad situation, likely losing control, and the experiment won't go as planned or at all, right? So you have to manage the expectation. So focus groups are something we talked about. All these slides are posted. Feel free to make sure to look through them. When you're doing qualitative research, here's another way to kind of look at it. We have depth of understanding, flexibility, etc., right? So in all types of qualitative field research, time for the actual moments you collect the data. An interview could last hour, 2 hours, or it could be all day. It could go over multiple occasions. The time it takes to write up the notes and transcribes interviews also varies based on how wordy the participant is. And that's not a bad thing. If you get a talky person like me, you may have miles of data, but that's going to help you in the end, right? And the time it takes to code and analyze the data takes a lot of commitment because once you've gotten it all down, now you got to make some kind of structure around it. Yet the rich data that surfaces can be quite telling. I did this and when I worked for a lot of different types of think tanks. And when I went through their years and years and years of longitudinal studies and sampling studies and their satisfaction studies, no one had wanted to comb through the thousands upon thousands of qualitative responses. But it ended up that I increased business by that company when I was still an account manager by almost 150% that year. One of the reasons I got to director was I took the time. It took me about a year to go through all that information. Wow, did the results change? The business for the clients went up significantly, right? And we started looking like experts because you took the time to read what they were saying. And truthfully, being honest with you right now, all I did was tell them what the participants have been telling them for years and they just weren't reading. It's important. I'll see you next lecture. Let's keep moving forward. Ciao.